Okay. And first of all, thank you for giving me feedback. Isn't that what we want?
Yes.
We go to Toastmasters, we speak, and we want honest, direct feedback. I'll talk about that today a little bit. Have you ever had that person in your life that is pleasantly persistent, that simply will not take no for an answer? For me, that person was Marion. She's a long-term Toastmaster, and somehow she knew that I needed Toastmasters. We'd chat after church, and she'd say, "Diane, you would love it." Then next week she'd say, "It would be so helpful for you." The next week she'd say, "Just come to one meeting." Of course, I was polite, I smiled, and then I completely disregarded her suggestion. I know. But I thought, well, I can speak. Maybe not great, but I can speak. I can string sentences together. I have a little confidence. Why did I need to join an organization to help me speak? That's going to take a lot of time, precious time. Well, fellow Toastmasters and guests at home, you probably know the reasons. Today, I would like to share my personal story with you. This goes back 16 years ago. There's a career transition group that meets in the South Bay every week. They have a speaker. I wanted to be that speaker, so I applied and I was accepted. I got busy. I found the snazzy new PowerPoint template, and I created all these slides that had lots of info and data and facts. I practiced in my little home office. I drove to the venue, and I had felt ready. When I got to the venue, disaster struck. I gave them my materials, my flash drive, and my brand new snazzy PowerPoint did not align with their not so new equipment. So the text on all of my slides was misaligned. It was hard to read. It looked almost as if someone had shuffled my PowerPoint deck. Has that ever happened to you? Yes, exactly, right? First time though, here. Another thing, when I started giving my presentation, I had used colors that were light. When they showed up on the wall, they were faded, and again, hard to read. You're shaking your head, you know, yes. Not good. The worst of all, they were not engaged. They were not shaking their head. They sat there with their phones, and I could see the telltale head tilt as they looked down, and then a little chuckle, and I'm thinking, yeah, they just found a new cat video during my presentation. How dare they? After my presentation, I got an evaluation. Some people nicely said, gee, she knew her stuff. She had all these facts and info. But others said, her PowerPoint wasn't very good, and she was kind of boring. Big failure, right? I almost called it quits. I had put so much time and effort into that presentation, and it flopped. I had driven an hour and a half to get to the venue. Do you know what? After the presentation, a room full of people, not one person responded. Not one person expressed any interest. Normally, people go to these career transition groups because they've been laid off, they've been downsized, reduced in force. Most of them go there to network, to improve their skills so they can get a job. But there are a few that go there because they don't want to go back to corporate America. They want a little more freedom, a little more flexibility. So they look at other things. They look at consulting. They look at business ownership. They look at franchising. And that's what I do. I match good people with good franchises. So I had come up totally empty. A couple days went by, and who did I run into but Marion? Marion was excited. She said, "Diane, how did your presentation go?" She knew I'd worked on it a lot. Well, I looked down and I said, "Oh, Marion, it did not go very well at all." She asked what happened, and I said, well, I told her all the problems with the PowerPoint and all of that. Without missing a beat, she said, "You need to join Toastmasters." She knew. This time, I said yes. When I look back on that, I think, gee, I had only given 5-minute presentations before. I had never given 50-minute presentations. That's a big gap. Once I joined Toastmasters, I realized that had I been a member, I would have known some of these things. In my mind, I'm thinking, who knew that Toastmasters would help you with equipment compatibility or room setup? Who knew that Toastmasters would say, yeah, scratch some of that data, instead share some success stories of people that made that transition, because that's what people are going to remember. Who knew that you need to speak from the heart a little more and cut back on that corporate profile, if you will? These were some of the things I learned. In hindsight, it seems so easy, but when you're doing it the first time by yourself without a mentor, you make mistakes. Again, when I look back on that presentation, through my Toastmaster eyes now, I think to myself, gee, that was preventable and it was predictable. Predictable because I hadn't gone through any steps to get from 5 minutes to 50 minutes. I wasn't used to giving PowerPoint presentations for that length of time. All I knew is you shouldn't have a lot of words and you shouldn't read the words. I had done that. Who knew all of those things? Those are certainly things that Toastmasters helped me with, and I am enormously thankful for them. When Marion told me, or when I told Marion about my fiasco, and she said I needed to join Toastmasters, she also told me a few other things. And you might think that my why for joining Toastmasters was that fiasco of a presentation. And publicly, yes, it is. But privately, between us here today, there's a bigger reason. You see, Marion also told me that when I spoke, that I said, every third word. In fact, she called me the Queen of Oz. I didn't want that crown, but there I was, the Queen of Oz. That was really my motivator. That was my why for joining Toastmasters. Now, I ask you, what is your why? Why did you join? What do you want to accomplish? How can Toastmasters help you with that? Very important questions. Well, I'm happy to say that I joined the club that Marion was in, and she mentored me, and I give her a ton of credit. Through the years, I held club officer positions and area and division positions. And as Sally talked about or hinted at, we had a fabulous year, the year I happened to be district director. And I would like to tell you a little about that. At that year, the person who was slotted to move up into the district director position, the #1 position, had health issues and had to resign. They had an unexpected vacancy. What to do? They wanted someone who could step up, someone who could lead, someone who could learn as they went. And of course, someone who filled the qualifications of having been an area director and a division director. I fit those requirements, at least the last part of it. I received the call. They asked if I was interested in being the district director. When they asked me, I knew it was an honor. And I said, yes, I greatly appreciate you thinking of me. But I'm this farm girl from Wisconsin who's trying to just do a little bit better and not say every third word. But then I stopped and I thought to myself, hadn't I been taught that you don't have to know everything to succeed, you just have to be willing? And I said, yes, let's do this. Thank you. I had probably the best people working with me on the trio. Yes. They were awesome. I'm in a niche industry. They brought me up to speed. They were very patient. They expanded my horizons. The first thing we did was we had dinner at my house. We sat around the kitchen table. We talked. We planned. We continued talking and talking. We talked for over 4 hours. It was exhausting and exhilarating at the same time. We decided on our theme for that year. The theme was an epic run. We wanted to have an epic run and set the district up for success. Our first goal was getting to know the area directors, the division directors, the chairs, and all the volunteers. What I've learned is that when you do, you make that connection, things happen. Our membership started to grow. We started adding new clubs. We were growing slowly at first as we were getting our footing, especially moi here. But then we picked up speed, and as we picked up that momentum, one thing I learned is for momentum, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to do it. You have to take action. And we were getting responses. I think one of the reasons people said they would help was they knew that I genuinely needed it. We had people, we asked for help, and we had people who said, yes, I've never done that role before, but I'd like to learn. We had people who said, I don't have a lot of time, but I have a little time. I'd like to be part of it. I'll help. We had people come forward because of that connection, and we nurtured that. One small thing I did that I believe had a big impact was I had thank you notes printed that said an epic thank you. I sent them regularly. In fact, I had to have them reprinted. As the old saying goes, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. That hopefully was true in my case, and I wanted to demonstrate that. Toastmasters has been an incredible part of my life, and I'll be sharing several stories with you. Let me finish the story of our year about our epic run. It was June. the last month of the Toastmaster fiscal year. It meant pedal to the metal type of month. We were looking at our dashboard, which is online, checking to see number of new members, number of new clubs, educational goals, and we thought, there's a chance we could actually make this. We chartered our last needed club in June. We immediately submitted the paperwork, and then we waited and we prayed. On June 29th, before I went to bed, I checked my computer. Had not received an email from TI. About 2 a.m., I had to go to the bathroom. So of course, I checked my computer. No message. At 6 a.m., I got up and immediately went to my computer. Of course, it is now June 30th, the last day of the month, and there it was, the announcement: we had become a distinguished district. Thanks to everyone, and there were many, many people here who were part of that, and I'm so appreciative. It was a goal we had worked long and hard for. What did make me chuckle that morning at 6 a.m. is that I had received several emails from other early birds who were also checking the dashboard and checking online, and they sent congratulation emails that early. So it was a total team effort. Now, looking back, you may think that was easy, and yet there are all these things that happen where, again, disaster seems to follow a bit. Now, one of the first things we did was training. We held training at Diablo Valley College at DVC on a Saturday. This is a college. I personally called DVC on Friday afternoon. I wanted to make sure that someone was going to be there Saturday, bright and early, to open the doors. They said, yes, don't worry about it. We've got you. We know you're on the calendar. We've got a student who'll be there. So we all arrived there early. We're walking around. We're checking our phones. No student. We're walking around some more. Nothing. The student was a complete no-show. I'm sure you had a very fun Friday night. We made some calls. We tracked down the janitor. We got the janitor to open the doors. We had to turn the flashlights on our phone because, of course, it's all dark and we couldn't find the lights to turn on. We immediately went to the stage and we went, oh, man. The backdrop curtain was not pulled. There were props and things kind of laying around. Fortunately, someone knew someone in their drama department and told us what ropes to pull so we could get the back drape closed. We found the lectern, we pulled it out. There was no AV. I said, well, who needs slides anyway? We didn't have any mics, and instead, we used our big room voices. We were in epic run mode, and it worked. Now, we tend, or at least I tend, to remember those disasters. Why is that? I do have a couple more disaster stories to tell you, if you don't mind. This goes back, again, a few years. I was division director, and we had a contest. Everything was going great. People knew their responsibilities. Everything was in order. Sometimes I can procrastinate, but fortunately that time I didn't. I had everything ready by my front door. I had the awards, the certificates of appreciation, even the brownies that I had just baked that morning were by my front door. Then, that afternoon, I got another call. This one was from the hospital. My husband had been in an accident and I needed to come. I took a breath. I thought, who could I call? I thought there is a member in my club who I think is home. Let me call her, see if she can pick up the materials, take them to the contest, and we'll be set. I called her, she said yes, and off to the hospital I went. I had put the key under the door, a key under the mat. After the contest, I'm told it went beautifully. Didn't miss a beat, thanks to, again, the team that was there and all the prep work that had been done. With Toastmasters, we learn all of these things of preparation and anticipation of what can go wrong. I have a few other stories on that too. We'll get to those. The district year was, in many respects, life-changing because I said yes, and I didn't let fear hold me back, and I hope that will be the same thing for you. I would like to share a personal story now. And as I look back, I can see how Toastmasters has been interwoven in my life, and in many respects has given me the needed strength and confidence to do things. Well, the date of this event was October 30th, 2023. It was a Monday. It had been a busy day. I had worked too long. I am on a running streak. I run every day, minimum of a mile a day, ideally 20 miles a week, so that at the end of the year, I always have at least 1,000 miles for the year. I had not gotten my run in yet. So I checked my phone, and I had enough time to get 1 mile in. So I was out the door, I got my 1 mile in. I came back, I didn't have time to shower, so I grabbed a washcloth and I did the quick rub-a-dub-dub. And as I was doing that, I discovered a lump. And it was kind of a big lump. I stopped there, I didn't think anymore. I got dressed, I attended my Toastmaster meeting. As soon as the meeting was done, I Googled how to do a breast exam. I had always gone to my annual appointments, but this was in between appointments. I felt it, it hadn't disappeared, now I couldn't miss it, and it was large. I went online and immediately scheduled an appointment with the next available doctor for 8 a.m. By Friday of that week, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was assigned a care team. I met with my doctor and with the surgeon, and they scheduled an appointment for me the day before Thanksgiving. When I told my friends that, they said, "Oh, Diane, you will do anything to get out of making Thanksgiving dinner," which was also true. After the surgery, I had mixed news. I had the really good news that the cancer had not gone into the lymph nodes. But I got the not so good news that I needed another surgery. They had not gotten all of the cancer cells. It was doable. In fact, when I went back a couple weeks later to that same surgery center, they saw me coming down the hall and they said, "Diane, welcome back. We love returning customers." I'm happy to say that that surgery, again, was successful and I didn't need any more. Of course, during this time, they're doing all of these tests. During that time, I basically panicked. I had been in business a long time. I had all these paper files, I had all these boxes. I thought, who knows what's going to happen? I've had 2 friends that died of breast cancer. So I went through all of my files, and I had this huge stack of papers that I took to get shredded. I had gone to trade shows. I disposed of my trade show materials. I didn't make any plans for the coming year because I thought, why? We have to get through this first. Well, I got good news, the best news possible. it was such good news, I couldn't even have imagined it. For some reason, I had the right gene profile, and I did not need chemo or radiation. Does life get any better? I just got that next year of my life back. Toastmasters helped me through this process. As I was going through, it gave me confidence to ask some questions. It gave me confidence to advocate for myself. Without that, I don't know. I was not going to be a victim. Now, I will share as well that I now speak on that subject, a topic that I call laughter through the lumps. As I was preparing for it, I like to have props. So I went back to Nordstrom's where I had been fitted for a prosthesis, and I said, "Do you have any extra?" And they said, "No." Weird request. But they said I could earn one. I said, "Well, how could I earn one?" And they said, "Well, we need a model so that our associates can practice fitting bras on someone." So what did I say? Of course, as my speech title indicates, I said yes. I never expected to have a modeling career at my age. Now I give that presentation, and I'm also proud to say that I've added to my resume that I'm now a Nordstrom lingerie model. We have opportunities to speak at unlikely times and unlikely places. My husband was a volunteer woodworker for the tall ship, the Matthew Turner. It's an educational ship. It's in Sausalito. It's an impressive vessel. The deck alone is 100 feet long. The total length is 132 feet. It has 11 sails. You should see it under sail. And a crew of 26 can sleep there. It's used mainly for educational events and also sales and dinner events, things like that. Well, at the completion of the ship, they had a potluck recognition dinner for all the volunteers. So we went. After dinner, the director stood up and asked everyone to introduce themselves and tell the group what building the boat meant to them. Now, most of the people are retired, and this was a huge project to them. They humbly talked about the camaraderie that they formed, the new skills that they learned, seeing this giant project come to completion. It was very heartwarming. As I'm listening to people go around the room, I put my Toastmaster hat on, and I thought to myself, nothing is expected of me. Nobody knows me. I didn't volunteer to help build the boat, but I wanted to share what my husband had experienced and I had experienced indirectly. So I decided that I was going to stand, I was going to square my shoulders, and I gave 3 points, even with a little humor. I wanted to leverage that opportunity and not make just a simple introduction, but I wanted to show appreciation for what that had done for my husband and for the other volunteers, and I felt that I could do that. Without Toastmasters, I would have simply said my name and looked to the person on my right. Now, what other ways might you use Toastmasters? In my club, we start with a joke master who tells a joke. I'm not a naturally funny person. I candidly have to work at it. When it comes to jokes, I have to practice, let's be honest. I decided that this was time now to practice. And what better venue, so to speak, than getting together with some of my girlfriends for a weekend that we would do every year. So once a year, I get together with friends at a nice hotel. We go out to dinner, we see a play, we go shopping, we meet that next night for happy hour. We share stories. Now, one of my friends is a prolific joke teller, and she has this repertoire of jokes. Well, I fished out every joke that I had heard at our meeting, and I practiced. So she told a joke, I told a joke. She told a joke, I told a joke. It was great fun. I had never done that before. How else could you use Toastmasters? What could you learn? When we speak about jokes, and I don't see the timer here, so I don't know if I have time to tell my favorite joke or not. Okay. Again, remember, I'm from a dairy farm. I took my cows to the county fair and to state fair. Now, Buddy and Mabel loved going to the state fair in Sacramento. They would go every year. They loved the exhibits. There was a helicopter pad there. And Buddy would say, "Oh, Mabel, I want to go for a helicopter ride." And Mabel would say, "Oh, Buddy, the helicopter rides are $50, and $50 is $50. So they didn't go. Years passed, they kept going. Buddy kept looking longingly at that helicopter pad, and every year they continued walking past it. Then, one year, Buddy says to Mabel, "Mabel, I am 85. If we don't go up in that helicopter soon, I may never get a chance to." Well, fortunately, the pilot was right there. And he said, "Hey, folks, I'll take you for a ride for free if you don't say a word during our ride. If you don't say a peep, I will not charge you a penny. But if you say the first word, it's $50. They agreed. The pilot took them up. He is doing every daredevil stunt that he knows. They have not said a peep, not a word. He can't believe it. He finally lands. He leans around and he says, "I am so impressed, not one word." And Buddy said, "Well, I almost said something when Mabel fell out." But, you know, $50 is $50. My challenge to you folks is look at Toastmasters. What is your why? What can you learn? How can you implement it? What things outside of Toastmasters that you can say, I'm proud to do? Now, I know when Marion called me the Queen of Oz, she never meant to insult me. She was only saying that my communication skills did not meet my expertise. I am so thankful that she said that. Just like we started the meeting today and you gave me feedback. Thank you for that. I ask you now, what opportunities have you passed up because you didn't feel ready? What things were you overlooked for? What ideas couldn't you communicate clearly enough that people said, yes, we'll do that? These are all things that you can practice and learn through Toastmasters. When I look back at what Toastmasters has given me, of the wins that I have received, it's been more than I could have ever hoped for or ever expected. If I can mentor, if I can pay it forward, if I can hopefully inspire you to do more and to be more, I would like to do that. Fear less, say yes, and win.